Okay, abusua bɛma kɔ aba sonko so ɛde ba ɛyɛ Ghana Politics Avenue so abusua yɛmbɔ ɛyɛ yɛn nsɛm ɛyɛ maame yɛfrɛ no JeanMensa ɛyɛ court refuse ɛyɛ ne resignation a abusua maame JeanMensa ɛhwɛ baabi a ɛkyɛ sɛ nneɛma asi bi keka kɔ no a nanka ne resignation kɔpɛ sɛ ɔresign anasa bet mmara a ɛwɔ hɔ no sɛ petition no yɛnya petition against ɛyɛ EC boss a abusua resignation deɛ lie nti court refuse JeanMensa ne resignation anka nanka ɔpɛ sɛ ɔde resign na nka ne entitlement bi anka government bɛhwɛ na ɔde ama no abusua nanka wagye ne ko deɛ but sisi ano court ablocke ne resignation a ɛnyɛ asɛm ketewa koraa mo yɛnkɔ na yɛnkɔ nkɔtie nsɛm a ɛkɔ so unsubscribe yɛ subscribe like na share ma afoforɔ nso nsa ntumi nka bi aha ɛyɛ Ghana Politics Avenue so medam ase
and help us with some explanations as to how this will work. Now, if you look at the constitutional provisions carefully, he says there's little wiggle room for anybody to capriciously remove a chairperson of the Electoral Commission head, 2 deputies, or also the special prosecutor. You have to have a case against them. Without a strong case, you cannot just. It's not the kind of office that the president will wake up in the morning and say, you are no more minister. That is not that kind of office. The Constitution actually explicitly states, and if you read 146, it says clearly, a justice of the Superior Court or a chairman of the regional tribunal shall not be removed from office. That's the very first thing it states, that you cannot remove them from office, but says that except for stated misbehavior. You must be able to point to the misbehavior. You must point that this is what they did. You must make a strong case for it. Or incompetence. And incompetence is not the type that we see the people stand on the platforms. He's incompetent. No, not that one. You must prove that they have incompetently discharged their duties. They are on ground of inability to perform the function of his office. So that's what the lawyer David Olaga was pointing out to us. Let's also speak to lawyer T.K. Jimegan. Lawyer T.K. Jimegan is a private legal practitioner. There are other skills that he holds, but those skills are not needed yet. Maybe on the matter of his work in the healthcare arena. Lawyer, first let me ask you, because every time I speak to you, I get curious. At what point in time did you go into healthcare and why?
Good morning, Senna, and good morning to your listeners. Senna, we sojourn out of the country from time to time.
Yes.
So it was one of those surgeons. I was in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing my engineering. I've always had a thing for mental health.
Okay.
Because somebody died out of mental health when I was growing. And I've always been having different views. Indeed, Senna, if today I become a millionaire, the first thing I want to do is to establish a mental hospital to pick all mental patients off our streets and get treatment free.
I see. Very interesting.
I've always been asking God to give me that opportunity to get money and just build a mental hospital from Paga to Axim to Aflau, all mental health patients off the streets and give treatment 5% for free.
Like you heard, he's always also an engineer, but this morning we are relying on his expertise in law. And of course, this weekend, I was on the same platform with you when we were discussing this matter of the petitions. One of the things we were not sure about is whether or not the presidency has the petition. The presidency now says that he has 7 on the matter of the chairperson of the Electoral Commission and 2 deputies, and 3 for the special prosecutor. Now that this has been confirmed, what are your thoughts?
Yes, I was going to say over the weekend we were not sure if the petitions were received. Glad they have been received. And on that same program, you remember my brother Solomon was of the view that it should be very easy to remove persons in such authorities. In that way, you will sit up and do your job. I've also picked social media things about the fact that these are acts of the executive to remove these guys. First, let me talk about the OSP. there's nobody in NDC who is not aware that removing the OSPs by NDC will be a poison chalice. This is something that we would not like to drink. Indeed, we all have our disagreement with how he's carrying out his duties. He's a fine lawyer. Indeed, he taught me criminal law. But what has been achieved so far? And you see, there's an area we are all forgetting. The OSP, or the Office of the Special Prosecutor, was a campaign promise by somebody. Then we had a situation where the person, thinking that my enemy's enemy is my friend, decided to use Martin Amido. That failed when Martin realized what he was being used for. And Kisia Jaben Esquire came in, the same thing, saying that he's not getting the cooperation, or he was not getting the cooperation from those same people. It is the same government or regime that this went through. So for me, Senna, I don't know how is he now getting the better cooperation. If he's getting a better cooperation, then what is it that NDC will be interested in his removal? I don't think NDC is interested in his removal. As for the EC, I made mention of the fact that they supervised the disenfranchisement, or the idea that the whole of South, Santo Kofi, Akpafu, Lolobi, and Lipe, my neighbors from Hallway, having no representation in Parliament for 4 years, such a thing should not be pardoned. And mindful of the fact that they supervise that, once such a thing is triggered, I would have been expecting, or the as I said that day, is lingering. I would have expected that the character of the dead is a lesson to the living. They saw what happened to Tokonu, Justice Emeritus. I would have been advising that they should step down voluntarily.
That they should step down voluntarily.
Yes.
But on the same platform, I think it was Lawyer Sebel pointed out that once this process is triggered, there's no room for resignation. Is there?
One, you have no room for resignation when it is brought to your attention, isn't it? That's why I'm saying that once you are aware that the thing has started somehow, it has not been brought to their attention. It will be brought to their attention when they are invited, they are giving copies to say that respond to it. And in the case of the EC, we have a precedent where Charlotte Osei was asking for, I think he was given a copy, and in the case of the OSP, Tokonu gave a copy to Kisia Jaben to respond, to determine whether there's a prima facie case. So in terms of precedent, that would have been happening, that they will give them a copy, or they will give them copies. Now you've not received that. You might, someone will say it was brought to your notice by virtue of newspaper publication, but you can't use newspaper publication. Now there is a Supreme Court ruling that you cannot resign. But they are not forcing you not to resign. But you cannot resign and still keep your benefits. That is the idea. But you can still resign. Indeed, the law is that nobody can force anybody to work. So you can resign. But you might not resign and still get your benefits. But what I was advising is that once you begin to hear the rumor that this is being done, first is you resign.
But is that not an admission of guilt and wrong? Because if I am convinced that I've done my work in a manner that is above board, that will withstand any scrutiny, why not stand up and defend myself?
Senna, the lawyers have something they call res ipsa. The thing speaks for itself. I gave you an example that they supervise the idea that a whole group of people were without parliamentary representation for 4 years. What are you going to defend about that? That is the incompetence of the highest level. What are you going to defend?
But they can also, the argument has also been that they were handed a fait accompli with the demarcation of the new regions, which made it difficult. And the Constitution says that you cannot have a constituency that's in 2 regions. So now the Constitution has been divided into 2. So the South area was in Oti, the Hoho area in the Volta region, and that makes it difficult for them. By the Constitution, they have always insisted that it was not their doing. It was the doing of those who did the demarcations.
So, Sarah, what happened that now South has their own constituency? The same procedure could have been used then. And if you feel that somebody is doing an illegality in your domain, what do? You resign. You don't support the illegality. The argument cannot fly today. They supervise it. Who issued the statement and when did they know? They issued a statement on the eve of election. Is that when they knew that they are going to disenfranchise the people? And did they seek a constitutional interpretation to see what the Supreme Court will ask for? Someone should read Valentine Jache versus Professor Margaret Kweku and NDC. And the advice given by the Supreme Court is in there. They cannot hide behind the fact that we had a president, Nana Akuffo Addo, who was the monarch of all these surveys. By right, there's none to dispute that as a result of that, I was incompetent. Come on. That is even more admission of incompetence.
So for you, the advice is they should leave office.
By now, they should have been going home. If they were close to me or I was their lawyer, there's nothing to fight here. Sarah, when the Justice Tokono one started, I said that it is always good to be brave, but sometimes it's better to be a coward. And you could sometimes see the end from the beginning of certain battles. Now, you've had 7 petitions. I don't know whether those are against the EC. And I also told you that throughout the last 4 years or 6 years, Imani Ghana had been consistently asking for EC to be investigated and audited, and had been consistently preaching to say that these guys were doing shoddy job. A group like Imani Ghana, it's just like Amnesty International or Red Cross. So their voice will go far, and they will have very solid ground for their advocacy they were doing. And how are you going to fight such a group with all the armory they have? I think that sometimes it's better to be a coward. However, as you said, we don't know the bullets in their arsenal. So, well, let's leave it that way. Perhaps the end will justify my advice or their stance.
And of course, when I was reading the Daily Guide today, they made, in fact, the Chronicle was making reference to exactly the thing you started with. The suggestion has been, this has been the agenda of the NDC all the while they were in opposition. Now they have power. So they've decided to use the power against JeanMensa and the deputies. How do you respond to that?
When we had a deputy who posted that NDC is a threat to Ghana's democracy, and that threat has now faced you, what do? You take cover. That will be what a commonsensical approach will be. However, NDC campaigned with promises to Ghanaians that will do ABC, will reset Ghana. And Ghanaians said, come and reset Ghana. And they will say, reset Ghana. On the idea that NDC is interested in the removal of JeanMensa, no, if NDC were interested in the removal of JeanMensa, they would have said it themselves. Yes, indeed, the party chairman made comments to it. The same comments were supported by even the MPP. When they were about to do the Ablekuma rerun, they said it. That institution and the people manning it are no more fit for purpose. And it looks like they want to protect their job. That's why they are misbehaving, quote and unquote. Then Kofi Bento made the same statement about EC. So it has been like across board. Everybody is talking about them. All Kodia and Afenyo Martins have all of a sudden become NDC. No. Everybody has seen their incompetence. That is all we are talking about. Days where you can do things and just go away without anything are gone. Now people are demanding accountability by the day. It is not an NDC agenda. This time, let me talk as an NDC communicator. NDC has no such agenda, no interest in such a thing. But NDC will be interested in doing the right thing.
speak to Professor Jasper Abimbia Ayalozano, who is a Associate Professor of Political Science at the University of Development Studies. Prof, thank you very much for your time. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Senator, and good morning to the team. Greetings from the people of Tamale and the northern part of the country.
Now, just a few weeks ago, the discussion we're having was on the removal of the Chief Justice. That seems to have actually been successful. Gertrude Okonu is no more Chief Justice. The Chief Justice now have to also deal with another issue that has to do with removal of persons who are occupying constitutional offices. In fact, if you read Article 146, which deals with the removal of just of the Superior Courts, which applies in the case of the EC chairperson and also in the case of the special prosecutor. It says a justice of the Superior Court or chairman of the regional tribunal shall not be removed from office. So the anticipation is that as far as possible, they shouldn't be touched. But the Constitution continues, except for stated misbehavior or incompetence or ground of inability to perform the functions of his office arising from infirmity of body or mind. Should you be worried because of this direction, or does it boost our accountability measures?
Oh, thank you very much. I think your last point, whether it boosts our accountability measures, is clearly what is on display now with what is happening with these petitions. I think the constitutional governance that we practice, which is the anchor of our democracy, anticipated that some independent public institutions may do things that might not be in line with their work as institutions that are to ensure accountability and good governance in the country. So they provided all these checks and balances. Yes, President, you have the authority to appoint these bodies, and then these bodies, they have the autonomy to operate and do their jobs as much as possible. But then it doesn't mean that there are no checks on the president or these independent bodies. So this is the anchor of our democracy that we practice, that the Constitution provides checks and balances for political accountability to the people. And that's why ordinary citizens have the right under the Constitution to petition or to bring petitions against these autonomous bodies like the EC and the OSP, so that they can be held accountable. So I would think that this is in line with the principles of political accountability, as democracy rests on this principle that citizens should be able to hold their leaders and other public servants accountable. So this is just in the right direction. I think the petitions have been referred to the CJ, and in line with the same principles of accountability and giving the officers the chance to defend themselves, the rules of natural justice, the CJ will constitute a committee that will look into these petitions, and these officers will be given the chance to defend their actions, or even to clearly show that these petitions are baseless, they are frivolous or unmeritorious. And if the CJ finds that this is exactly what it is, then you recommend to the president that these petitions should be dismissed. So our constitution, no constitution is perfect, but the checks and balances provided by our constitution are good for our democracy.
what do we expect of people who occupy these offices when these petitions come and these issues are raised? What is the least we should expect from them?
I think the least we should expect from them is the way the Constitution gives them the opportunity to clearly defend themselves and, if possible, to show clearly that these petitions are frivolous. So, I mean, you should be ready to submit yourself to these processes, constitutional processes. And it says that if you occupy a public office, you occupy that office in the interest of the people. And you should be ready to submit yourself to processes of accountability, especially if it has to do with your conduct and the way the citizens view your conduct. Then that will always be at the front and center of what you do as a public servant occupying these powerful positions. So when these petitions come, you go out there and then present your case, and so that you are doing the right thing. And for me, that's the least I expect from them, is to go and submit themselves to the processes and then feel, empowered to also use all the constitutional processes to defend themselves and probably to clear their names. Because at the end of the day, if they are found not to have been, not guilty of these accusations, they would have cleared their names, and that's what the Constitution provides. So I think this is not a big deal. If you are a public servant, you should be ready for things like this.
So they should be able to, first of all, make themselves available to answer the questions and discharge themselves so creditably these petitions are thrown out.
Yes. Or if you also, there's a possibility that there will be grounds for you to be, for further disciplinary action against you. And that's why every public servant, myself included, I occupy an office as Dean of the Faculty of Communication and Media Studies. Anytime you go to the office and you sit on that chair, your decisions should be guided by the interests of the public, because it is in their interest that you sit on that chair, that you occupy that office. So your character should be above reproach. The decisions you take must be based on the rules. So if you are guided by this, that you are just a public servant serving the people, you take decisions in the interest of the people. And that doesn't mean that people will not find ways to probably accuse you of wrongdoing. But what have you got to lose or to fear once you think that you have done the right thing according to the rules and regulations of the office that you hold? I will gladly submit myself, and so that there is nothing to these petitions. But if you are also somebody who goes there to do corrupt things and then to line your pocket with the money of the people, or to play politics with your position, then you are likely to be found culpable of the crimes or the offenses that you have been accused of.
In fact, Solomon also of the United Party always insists that these are not, whenever those petitions come, we should not be thrown into a state of panic where everybody starts shouting, oh, they are going to remove, that this should be normal with offices of this nature. But people still hold the opinion that these offices should not be touched. Where do you lean?
Oh, that is just a very, I don't know. I think it is a pedestrian, claim or assertion that these people shouldn't be touched. I mean, we are not dealing with saints. Even the president can be touched. The president can be impeached. because we know that we are humans, and actually they can be nasty human beings that will find themselves into these offices and can do all kinds of things with the powers that they are given by the positions they occupy. And that can hurt many innocent citizens. Imagine the office of special prosecutor. It's a very important office that.
Okay, abusuya we ne ensema ekoso ewo political highway so mama JeanMensa na yeguso e de ne latest update e de brema enye asem keto akora beda mase samoje pene kokoti sa ensem we e de mai aha e Ghana Politics Avenue so beda mase.